We have 30 minutes to talk about using experiential to forge powerful consumer relationships. You are an OG of the space. You love experiential. You've been to the mountaintop and winning a Grand X. Take me back in time pre-Canva as to a little bit about your history and why you love experiential.
Yeah, I actually have, I would be brief about the story, but I always think it's fascinating and very fun. So when I went to Ithaca College. I don't know if we have any Ithaca College bombers in the house. But at Ithaca, I had the distinct honor of serving as our senior class president. And one of our big duties was to choose our commencement speaker. And the commencement speaker had to be an alumnus of Ithaca. So went through this list and I chose this individual, Amy Kuehl, who at the time was the vice president of the Macy's Parade and Entertainment Group. So Amy came to campus commencement morning. At that point, I had zero idea what I wanted to do for a career. All of my friends were in like the business school. They had their internships at PwC and God only knows what else they were doing. And I was like, I still have no fucking idea what's going on, so I'm just figuring it out as it comes. And had breakfast with Amy. We did the whole pomp and circumstance thing, and she got up on and she asked me what I was doing after commencement. I was like, I literally have no idea what I want to do with my life. That's that. And she got up on stage and offered me a job at commencement in front of 11,000 people. And a month later, I was working as an associate producer on the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, which was wild. That kind of really ignited my love for experiential, because at the time, when I graduated, it wasn't really a thing. It wasn't something that people told me was a career you could really get into. And it kind of set the stage for this wild ride. Worked for a little bit at Macy's and worked on things like the Macy's Flower Show and the 4th of July fireworks and the Thanksgiving Day Parade, one of the largest events in the world. It was just there we go. We found the power button.
Hey!
We love to see it. So I was just working on these like awesome programs at Macy's, and then had a brief stint at Fox, working as a junior publicist, and was working on American Idol and Glee and Sleepy Hollow and all these really cool shows. And that is where I met who would become my boss for 10 years, Ryan Seacrest. And I was working on American Idol and doing a lot of cool things, and he had just purchased a majority stake in a company called Civic Entertainment Group, which is an experiential agency based out of New York here. And I went on to work there for 10 years. And I really like to say that I grew up at Civic. I met some of my closest friends. I forged some of my closest relationships with people that I now call mentors and incredible leaders in the marketing industry. And got to work on some really cool projects there. Everything from little brands like Planet Fitness, Ford, WeWork, through the good and the bad. And Airbnb was actually my client for about 10 years, and I got to do a lot of really, really cool work with them. And that, my experience with them and my experience working with a disruptor brand like Airbnb, and now coming to this disruptor brand at Canva, I feel like we kind of charted this path that, it's been so rewarding and so inspiring. And I just got bitten by this experiential bug and this joy of creating live experiences and seeing the reaction on people's faces as they're getting to experience what you worked sometimes for a year to produce and to stand up. And there's nothing to me that replaces that feeling of joy and excitement when you see somebody getting to experience something that you built that cannot be replicated for me. And that's why I do it. I love it so much.
Would you say it's the one bug you want to be bitten by?
I would confidently say that is the one bug that I want to be bitten by.
But we should. I mean, I think those in this room that have felt the power of experiential and what we're going to talk about, it's undeniable. It's why I stay in the industry, because you cannot replicate that energy, that excitement. And I think those experiences, Macy's Day Parade, we talked about, your work with Airbnb, and that if you've not seen some of those campaigns of his earlier career, it's unbelievable. And I think from disruptor brand to disruptor brand, now landing at Canva. Talk about Canva and what drew you to them.
So many things. Well, to start, so I talked a little bit about my experience at Airbnb, and that's actually how I found my way to Canva. The amazing Natalie Schwartz, who was on the brand marketing side at Airbnb, I worked very closely with her across all 10 years that I worked with Airbnb, and she made her way over to Canva, and she reached out to me. It was like 2021, like end of the year 2021. We were like still clawing our way out of the pandemic. I was living back at home in Pennsylvania. I had moved out of my apartment in Jersey City and was just trying to figure out what's next. At that point, I'd been a civic for 10 years, and 10 years in agency life might as well be 452. That's why I lost all of my hair. And, you know, she had reached out to me and she was like, I'm looking for an agency. Canva's investing big time in experiential. We want to go really hard, and we're doing all these things. I'm looking for an agency to help us with our first toe dip in the water at South by Southwest 2022. I was like, okay, great. Like, Civic, you know, we do a ton of stuff at South by. I would love to chat with you about it. Also, I'm actively looking for what's next, and I desperately need something new and fresh and exciting. And she was like, well, what a coincidence, because I just so happen to be looking for a global head of experiential. And it was a very quick interview process, and I was just telling someone that my very first time using Canva was when we went through something called a challenge process. So everyone goes through, you have to build a presentation, present back to a board of reviewers as part of the interview process. And it was my very first time using Canva, and I was just navigating around the tool, and I started to build this presentation, and I was putting in pictures, and I was searching the elements library, and I was adding emojis and animations, and I just had so much fun with it. And I do not consider myself a designer by any means, but it was one of those things where, like, after I had finished this presentation, I looked at it and I was like, fuck, like, that looks good. And it was obviously good enough to get me the job, which was really great. And I've been at Canva now for a little over 2.5 years. And the thing that really, there are a couple things, there are many things that I really love about Canva. One, it's a product that I actually believe in, and I actually think is changing the world in a good way, which is really exciting, and it's really empowering for me as a Canvanaut to be able to play a part in that. And I got in at a really exciting time where Canva was just going through this rocket ship growth, and the opportunity to play with a brand like Canva that is so whimsical and colorful and fun, and it's a software company, but it's not your typical software company, right? Like, it's not clean, slick lines and edges, it's emojis, and it's confetti, and it's applause, and it's all these amazing things kind of rolled into this colorful, bold, big platform. And it's so exciting as an experiential marketer to be able to think about how you take a URL brand like Canva and bring it to life IRL, and that's been the most exciting part. I'm the first in the role at Canva, so there was no playbook for how the product comes to life, how the brand comes to life. So being able to have a look at, you know, what does Canva look like when you touch it and smell it and taste it and hear it and feel it has just been an incredible journey and ride for us over the past 2.5 years, and I'm very fortunate to get to work with an incredible team of, you know, who I now consider my closest friends, to just have fun every day with a brand that's just super fun and do cool shit with our friends. Like, isn't that at the end of the day all we really want to do as experiential marketers, you know? Or as anyone, as humans.
Sounds pretty good. So before we get to Canva Create, which is incredible, I think let's go back to Canva's motto is empowering the world to design. And I think if you guys have seen any of their campaigns, they truly walk the talk. And they involve so many people in the process and that B2C action. Can you talk to me a little bit about the role of, you know, when Mel is asking, the team's asking you to come on, and they're saying, hey, we believe in this from a leadership top-down perspective, what the difference that makes in your ability to do your job?
Yeah, I mean, another one of the things that I love about Canva is that, to your point, we are a brand that I feel like is walking the walk and talking the talk. And another piece that I'll mention very briefly that I feel very passionate about, and one of the things that drew me to Canva was we have this very simple, what we call our 2-step plan at Canva. 1, become the most valuable company in the world, casual. And 2, do the most good that we can. And we very much think about that as a cyclical process. By becoming the most valuable company in the world, it empowers us and enables us to do the most good that we can. And also, by you as a user using Canva, you are helping to empower that 2-step mission. You are helping us to be able to do the most good that we can. And a company with values like that, I think, is very rare. And a company with values like that is actually taking action, whether that's Mel and Cliff pledging the majority of their wealth away towards the Canva Foundation and our investments in both sustainable practices for the business, but also the work that we're doing in education, our partnership with Give Directly, and the funds that we're giving as part of cash donations to folks in Malawi. And there's so much work that's happening in that Step 2 space that is so incredibly inspiring. So when we talk about empowering the world to design, it is so multifaceted, and there's so many different ways that I think we're enabling that process and enabling that ability for individuals to be creative. And we talk a lot about, and you heard me mention this, I do not consider myself a designer by any means, but with and using Canva, I really feel like I was able to unlock this kind of like side of me that empowered me to be so creative. And because I think at the end of the day, everybody is born creative, right? We all are. And all it takes, if that's something that you don't feel you are, is something that comes naturally to you. It just takes something to unlock that and kind of see that come to life and to go through that experience has been so amazing. And when we talk about the position that Canva is in right now, we talk a lot about how our first 10 years of Canva's existence were about empowering every individual to design. And we're now really thinking about our next 10 years are about empowering every organization. So over the past year or so, we've gone through this interesting shift, which has been really fascinating as a brand marketer to be able to think about how that starts to come to life, because we almost have to have this shift or assumedly have this shift from a B2C to a B2B mindset. So thinking about how we're selling the enterprise, how we're selling to organizations, how we are painting this picture that, yeah, you might know Canva as this amazing tool that you use to create your wedding save the dates and your birthday party invites, but think about Canva as the tool that can empower your workplace, that can help your teams to collaborate, that can help you to create content at scale. And this shift in perception for us has been an interesting challenge, because for me, and I think for many of us at Canva, we're not necessarily thinking about these two clean work streams of B2C and B2B. We think about it and this might be cliche, but this idea of business to human. And from an experiential perspective as well, I really want to think about the experiential tactics that we're deploying that are really going to appeal to the human side of the consumer. It's not really about getting the B2B marketer where they are and shoving this message about Canva for work down their throats. And sometimes that's necessary. We've got to do it. But it's about thinking about these individuals that, after they leave the B2B marketing conference where you had this 10 by 20 pop-up booth at, they're going back home and they're going to the grocery store and they're going to the music festivals that you go to and they're going to the mall and they're driving around and they're seeing the billboards and, they're doing things that enrich them in other ways and empowering them to be creative. So how can we make sure that we're showing up in a B2B way, again, through this business to human lens and not thinking about it as being so siloed? And it's been a really interesting challenge for us from an experiential perspective to think about how we communicate and talk to that B2B audience, but still maintain that sense of what is uniquely Canva. Not watering down our messaging or watering down our colors or not being as whimsical or fun because we're talking to somebody that just so happens to be wearing a tie. I think that's really important to think about. And again, as we kind of look at our strategy and what we're doing from an experiential perspective, we're really thinking about the opportunities that are going to help us to hit both sides of the coin that are equally as important.
I'm going to stay on that a little bit because I love, when we were prepping for this, we bonded over that topic and B to H. And there's this idea of the development and the growth of non-fronces, right? So, we don't look in B2B or B2C profiles. You're coming in as a human and you're being talked to as a human and what that can do for engagement with the brand. And if these people are coming, or anybody, to Canva Create or engaging with you and they're getting that Canva experience, then that's the win, right? We don't shed a skin automatically and just walk into this conference and be like, oh, I'm going to put back on my we live URL to IRL seamlessly. We were talking about that, so you're online to offline, and I think that you guys are doing it beautifully, and I think it's speaking in the growth of Canva Create. So we'll get into that a little bit. And so 2.5 years in, you've seen a lot. You're prepping for year 3. Talk to us a little bit about what year 1 was, and then into year 2 and what we can expect.
Yeah. Canva Create is my baby. Like, it certainly feels like I spent my first 6 months at Canva building our first ever Canva Create. And it was not something that the company was used to doing. We had never done a big product launch. Like, Mel had never really been on stage. She'd spoken at a few conferences, but we had never really done our own thing. We had had some brand campaigns, of course some product launches, but the first Canva Create was a significant milestone for the company. It was the first time that we really landed the message about the full Canva visual suite, everything from social media to docs to whiteboards and presentations and websites and video. Seeing that all in one place was something that really came to life at the first Canva Create, and it took a lot of pushing and pulling to, get the team comfortable with getting on stage and doing this whole song and dance. And it's important to remind everyone that Canva, if you don't know, is an Australian-based company. So there are about 4,500 employees or so, about 2,600 of them are all based in Sydney, Australia. So I just finished my 17th trip to Sydney in 2 years. Lots of miles, which is great, but nobody should be on a plane for 15 hours. It's not fun. But I love going to Sydney, I love the people there. So there was very much like this cultural difference, certainly too, of this loud, extravagant American guy that was coming in to do this whole song and dance and put on a show and bring a little of the sexiness and the sizzle and the sparkle. And it, A, was received so well, which was awesome, and B, just became this incredible rallying tactic internally for us to rally the product team, to rally the engineers, to rally the marketers, and it is Canva's largest cross-functional event. It's our Apple WWDC, really, at the end of the day. And the first event was held in Sydney for an audience of 2,200 Canvanauts, people that we were paid to sit in seats. But we had filmed it, we did a simulcast, and the results from that first Canva Create were phenomenal. They expedited our company goals by 6 to 8 months from what we were thinking in terms of now and some of the attention that we were getting from some of the big news that was coming. And it was so good that we turned around 6 months later and had the second Canva Create, again in Sydney, a little bit bigger footprint. We put more attention on the virtual experience. We opened the doors a little bit wider to investors and partners, and saw this really smart, strong playbook for what an owned event for us could look like. And in year 3, we took a lot of big leaps. We went from Sydney to the US, hosted the third Canva Create at SoFi Stadium this past May. We sold tickets for the first time, which was something that, we weren't sure how this was going to go. Everyone could be like, oh, exciting, or everyone would be like, no, I'm good. And fortunately, everybody was like, oh, exciting. We sold 3,500 tickets at 3,500 people in attendance at Canva Create, and we also opened the doors wider to the community for the first time and encouraged people to come and to hear. We had thought leadership, and we had over 50 different speakers and 30 different sessions, and Bob Iger spoke, and Mindy Kaling, and Adam Grant, and we just had this incredible program, and seeing the outpouring of love from the community that was there, and just their excitement to be experiencing Canva in this way, to be in the room when we were making these product launches, it very much, to me, I think it will continue to be Canva's secret sauce. It is to hear people talk about Canva the way that they do, I love Canva. You don't really, and correct me if I'm wrong, but nobody's really walking around being like, I love Adobe. It's true. But that community love and seeing what Canva as a platform has done, again, for people who don't think they are innately creative, how it's empowered them to start up their small business, to make this pitch deck for the app that they've always been wanting to create, to invest in their goals, to whatever it is, however they're using the platform. It was just really incredible to see that response and see everyone just kind of rally behind what we were doing and have so much love and excitement for the brand and for a platform like Canva Create, especially when we were taking so many big swings in kind of one fell swoop there. And we were so overwhelmingly excited by the response, and we're turning around and doing it again in 2025, which is really exciting, and hopefully be back at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, and we're hopefully going to increase attendance. The footprint is going to get bigger. We're going to have more speakers. We're going to have more hands-on learning opportunities. So it's really, really exciting, and I think one of the more interesting things to come from Canva Create 2024 was our big launch around Canva Enterprise, which was a really big deal for us. I mentioned our next 10 years are going to be about this sense of empowering every organization. So launching Canva Enterprise was critical. It was something that we needed to nail to get right, to help inform and to help power these next 10 years. And we were sitting in the room one day, and Mel, our founder, came to the table, and she was like, I have an idea. I can't do an Australian accent, so I'm not going to try. Even though I listen to it every day, you think I'd be much better. She was like, I have this idea for launching Canva Enterprise. She's like, what about a rap battle? And of course, everybody sits at the table, and we're like, excuse us, madam? Rap battle? And she's like, yeah. And she comes in and she's like, I had a jam with ChatGPT. She loves playing with AI and could be on there for hours talking back and forth. She's like, I had a jam and we wrote this rap and this is what it could look like. And we got these two guys from our creative team to go and do this like scratch recording of it, which can never see the light of day, but it's the most hilarious thing you'll ever hear. These two Australian guys just like having this enterprise rap battle in a phone booth in Sydney, Australia. It's hilarious. And of course we roll our eyes and we're like, this is ridiculous. But also, maybe it's brilliant. And again, that's one of the things that I value so much about being at Canvas. A leadership team that's A, willing to take big swings and take big risks and do things that might feel crazy, but also see, on the flip side too, seeing that investment in experiential and seeing the power of what it can do and how it helps the business. They want to take risks there, and that's really exciting, and that's a really exciting space to play in. So we leaned all the way in on the Canva Rap and the rap battle at Canva Create, and we got one of our community creators, Roger Coles, to be the rapper, who's an insanely talented human being. And we got this actress who played the role of the CIO that was rap battling him. And we had backup dancers, and it was electric. If you were in the room or if you were not in the room, just out of curiosity, who has seen the rap battle? Okay, well I highly encourage you to go take a look. But if I could deplore you, watch all of Canva Create. It's 45 minutes long. It'll be a great entertaining 45 minutes, I promise. Because seeing the rap battle in context of everything else we did within the show was really great. Where things went a little bit south was the rap battle was taken out of context and blew up on social media. Like, completely went viral. We had like 60 million impressions in 24 hours. It's getting shared everywhere. Sadly, the message that went along with it was, ooh, this is really cringe. Which, like, if you look at it on its own, certainly. We're getting, people were likening it to the Steve Jobs or the, like, Apple launch where, like, all those tech nerds were in their turtlenecks on stage, like, shaking around. And it was a really stressful 48 hours, especially as, like I mentioned, Canva Create is my baby. And to see something from Canva Create, have such a negative, weird reaction, I was kind of like, wow, fuck, what have I done? What have we done? And for me, what I thought was so beautiful, when we talk about the power of like that consumer relationship, and I think the rap battle in particular, it's a really great example of this, because after so much like, this is cringe, I can't believe Canva did this, 48 hours later, like after it went viral for a day, seeing the community come to, not our defense, but the conversation very much flipped. And it wasn't about, this is cringe, I can't believe they would do this. It was very much like, no, this is Canva, and if you don't get it, then probably not for you. So move on, or go back to Illustrator or whatever it is you're working on. Don't quote me on that. But it was very much this sense of like seeing the community kind of like come rallying, almost being like, no, this is what makes Canva so special, and like the people being like, they're doing B2B in a different way. Like it's not a boring presentation, it's not a boring product launch. Like they just did rap battle, and that's awesome. And honestly, take a page out of their book. So that it was comforting after the first 24 very stressful hours. But again, a really great, I think, demonstration of the power of community and that relationship that we built with our community and our consumer, to be able to have our back like that. So.
And that's probably the perfect note to end on here, of just as we think about it and closing it out here. Experiential, part of it is taking risks. It's understanding your community. It's really knowing what's going to make them tick versus somebody else. And there is that, if you know moment that Canva stood up for you, all your Canva knots, and came to that. And so excited where year 4 is going to go. All the best of luck, and thank you. And yeah, I think we're no Q&A. Okay.
Love it.
Okay,
Sorry, I talked too
thank
much. Thank you guys very much.